What mistakes do you see up and coming leaders make that you can spot and say, let's rethink that?
I think one of them is the fear of making a mistake. I mean, we make so many decisions, just in our regular daily lives. But when you get in a leadership role, you're going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to do it. The key is don't make the same mistake over and over again, right? So if you make a mistake, learn from it. Also, being afraid if something goes wrong, being afraid to step up and be the one that's accountable for it. That's not seen as a weakness. It's not bad. It's actually positive. I see that.
I'm Todd Faulkner, and welcome to Leadership Magnified. You just heard from this week's guest, President of Baptist Health Paducah, Kenny Boyd. Named president in 2022, Boyd now also serves as board chair of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce. As the leader of one of two hospitals in Paducah, Kenny discusses why it's important to surround yourself with folks smarter than yourself, why he doesn't care for yes people, and the stress relief valve he uses to de-stress and prepare for the day. Here's my conversation. Kenny Boyd, thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me.
Oh, thanks, Todd. Thanks, Todd. Glad to be here.
It dawned on me the episodes prior to this one were with elected officials, and I think for the most part, people kind of know who their leaders, elected leaders are. But I was thinking, if you walked up to somebody and said, "Hey, who runs Baptist Health Paducah?" They probably couldn't name you, I would think. So before we get into your leadership style, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, who you are, family, stuff like that.
Sure. Kenny Boyd, President, Baptist Health Paducah. Um, Grew up kind of in Kentucky and kind of in Germany. So my dad's retired Army. I was born in Germany and then spent time between Germany and Fort Knox area. Graduated from the University of Louisville and through just the normal career trajectory, ended up here in September of 2022.
Okay. Fill me in on what drew you to the healthcare industry. How does one end up in there?
So I joke and tell people a series of poor life decisions, but the reality is, I had always thought I was going to be an attorney, and that from like sixth grade. As I went through undergrad, I had the opportunity to invite a guest lecturer, and it happened to be a guy my dad served with in the military. And at the time, he was a hospital CEO. And afterwards, he asked me what I was going to do after undergrad, and I told him I was thinking of law school. And he said, "Well, have you ever thought about healthcare?" And I had not, and so he offered a letter of recommendation for grad school and also the opportunity to just talk about the industry. So, I decided to give it a try because I could always still use the master's degree, in healthcare administration in some form.
Mhm.
And it wasn't long into my master's degree program, I thought, "Yeah, I kinda like this. This could work out." And then he hired me out of grad school for my first job, and, the rest is history, so
So where was that first job?
first job was in Norton, Virginia.
And you've traveled and worked where? All over the place?
I have held leadership opportunities in Norton, Virginia, um, Girard, Kansas, Macomb, Illinois, Columbia, Tennessee, and now here.
All right. Broad strokes, before we get into specifics, broad strokes, how would you describe your leadership style as president of Baptist Health Paducah?
Um, I'm a fairly transparent and open guy. I find it easier just to be, clear and concise. I enjoy having a good time when it's appropriate. The work we do is serious, so we have to balance that. And then also inclusive, and I mean that in the form of that I worked with a lot of smart people, most of them smarter than I am, and so it's really good when we're dealing with issues or working on strategy to really listen to the folks around me and then utilize that to come to a final decision. So, it's kind of a broad piece, but it's open, collaborative, straightforward, but still ensuring that we don't take ourselves too seriously.
When you surround yourself with kind of like your core people, what are your expectations for them?
Basically same as for me, I don't like yes people. I don't need that. That's not healthy for the organization. What I need are people that are going to respectfully challenge me, hold their people accountable, give good feedback for us, and make sure that decisions you're making are the best interest of the organization, and not the best interest of yourself, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, are you one of these leaders that, I've talked with some people in your level that they kind of have this idea that I don't make any big decisions after 3 p.m. or I'm gonna sleep on it, or does your mind operate that way or no?
It does not. We operate in a 24/7, 365 environment. The hospital is never closed. We consistently see patients, and hence decisions always have to be made. So I have to be ready to make a decision at any time of day. Now, do all of them have to be made right now? They don't. There's a lot of decisions. You got to gather data and facts and, delve into it, make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's before you make decisions. But there are also some that have to be made now. So I'm not this role does not afford you to be a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 kind of leader. You're on all the time. And so, that comes with the job. You have to be prepared to do that. And it's something that's just become ingrained in me over the 25 years or so I've done this.
So in those 25 years, we talk about your first job and to where you are now. Who would you say is a mentor or a coach that you've learned from, a leader that you've learned from?
I've had the opportunity to learn from a lot. Rick Napper was the gentleman that got me into the industry and hired me for my first job. And oddly enough, he retired in Marshall County, so he lives down the street, literally. So I still have the opportunity to see and talk to him on a somewhat regular basis. And then I have several mentors. My current boss, Patrick Falvey, is great at listening and being that sounding board, and then giving you insight. And then there have been a myriad from board chairs I've worked with, physicians that I've had the chance to work with. And oddly enough, I've probably learned as much from people that report to me as I've had to people I've reported to. So I've had the opportunity to have some great team members who see things differently, which is really beneficial, I think, to me and to the organization because it allows me that opportunity to learn from people who have different strengths than I do.
So from your perspective, y- you surround yourself with a team and there's different layers there, but what mistakes do you see up and coming leaders make that you can spot and say, let's rethink that?
I think one of them is the fear of making a mistake. I mean, we make so many decisions just in our regular daily lives. But when you get in a leadership role, you're going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to do it. The key is don't make the same mistake over and over again, right? So if you make a mistake, learn from it. Also, being afraid if something goes wrong, being afraid to step up and be the one that's accountable for it. That's not seen as a weakness. It's not bad. It's actually positive. I see that. And then also unwilling to do things that they're not comfortable with, but like, hey, I don't want to do that. This is what I want to do. And they miss out on a learning opportunity. But like, hey, this might not be what you're going to do, this area, but you'll better learn the industry as a whole if you take that step into that area you're not super comfortable with. Learn more about our industry will make you a better leader in healthcare, I think.
What's something that your average patient, I mean, I've had surgeries at Baptist, I've been to Baptist, I often don't think of the executive wing. You're dealing with the doctors and the nurses' aides. Um, what's something that you and your team do that might surprise the average patient? Kind of how's the meat, how's the sausage made?
That's a really interesting question, and I don't know if there is a super good answer. But I think just our level of involvement with our staff on a daily basis, making sure that we support them in what they need to do, removing the small barriers that make their lives more challenging as they do it. And I think the other piece, especially unfortunately in today's environment, is the amount of focus and attention we put on and ensuring we have a safe work environment. Unfortunately, um, people acting less than civil in even workplaces have become unfortunately common, and ensuring that our employees and our patients have a safe place to practice as well as receive care. So I think some of that might be surprising to folks as far as what we ensure we do on a daily basis to ensure our team members have the best place to work as possible.
Yeah, a safe space where everybody feels because we've got a lot of families coming in there for they don't probably want to be there. They're there for a
Correct.
health issue, and emotions are high. So I can only guess that sometimes there's some emotional encounters that happen.
It's a very emotional environment. It's a very scary environment at times.
Mhm.
We speak in weird lingo. And there's a lot of trying times. We see people in the best times of their lives and the worst time of their lives, but it's ensuring that we provide the resources needed to keep everybody safe and provide the best outcome for our patients.
Over the course of your career, are there any lessons that come to mind where you've kind of learned how to maybe better approach somebody or a topic? What have you learned about your leadership style?
I'm pretty good at ensuring that people understand where I'm coming from. I'm a clear communicator. Part of what I have learned though is ensure that you listen to the entire scope and that everybody feels heard. Everybody not just feels, everybody is heard. So that you ensure you have all of the information you need before you make a decision, and also in those difficult situations ensuring that when you're addressing those challenging situations that nobody feels that you are accusing them of something, or that they've done something, somebody's quote getting in trouble, because that can only escalate it things sometimes. So it's really using tools that the healthcare industry has come up with to help leaders de-escalate situations. I think has been very beneficial to me as a leader, but then also the industry, so that you can go in and ensure that what needs to be done to keep everybody safe and healthy is done without escalating a scenario unnecessarily.
Okay. I kind of want to pivot as I explained, you're a leader in a couple different roles now in the community. We'll pivot away from Baptist Health Paducah to your position as now chair of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. How do you see your role as board chair this year?
As board chair, I see my role as ensuring that the chamber continues to do what it's always done, which is represent the needs of our members to the best of its ability. Sandra and her team do an amazing job at doing that, and also making sure that we are advocating on behalf of the region that we have the ability to serve, looking at how can we make the Paducah, McCracken County, West Kentucky region the best place to live, work, and play as possible, to ensure continued future success, to provide, with our other partners throughout the region that work on whether it's economic development, government, et cetera, um, just supporting those initiatives to continue to make West Kentucky a prosperous place. And then also, with the implementation, excuse me, of our leadership arm is ensuring that we grow our future leaders here, so that as leaders age out and go on to the next phase of life through retirement, that we have people that are ready in our community to take over those roles.
On that point, whether it be your perspective through your position on the board or as president of Baptist Health, how important is that transition over years to take, those who are wise but have been there a long time to kind of remove themselves and let the next generation take over?
I think it's paramount to the success of any entity, whether it's a governmental entity, a not-for-profit entity like the chamber, an organization like Baptist, ensuring that there's some continuity. It may not be direct continuity or direct succession, but ensuring that you're developing people's skills, so that they can help have a positive impact on the organization moving forward, because you can't do it in one big step. You can't wait until, okay, these people are retiring. Now who's going to kind of step up? You need that constant line of development, because one, that helps attract and retain talent, and then it also helps to continue to improve whatever organization you may be involved with.
Okay. We've kind of covered all the stuff I wanted to with leadership. We end every episode just kind of pull back the curtain, show a little bit of your personality. So the first question I have for you is, how do you relax at the end of the day?
So, actually I start my day with the gym. I get up at 4:31, and yes, that's the accurate time because it's not 4:30. I get up at 4:31. I'm at the gym by 5 o'clock. I work out for about an hour and 15 minutes. That one helps me get myself going for the day, but it also is my big stress relief valve. So it kind of lets me out, lets me get ready for the day, clears my mind. I like to do stuff like work in my yard, clean my cars, and I'm also a big water guy, and that's where I really relax, whether it's at the pool or at the beach. It's one of the few places I found that I can just like really unwind. And then, when that's not the weather, I enjoy reading. And so, you go in again, you're sitting down with a good nonfiction. For me, it's a nonfiction history, normally around um, American leadership, American government, presidents, wars, etc., and just sitting in a corner in my office and reading, and that's kind of me.
Okay, very good. Kenny, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Well, Todd, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's this week's pod. If you're enjoying the show, share it on social media and tell a friend. Next week, we hear from Kentucky Secretary of State, Michael Adams. Video and sound by Bryce Patterson, Mason Watkins, and Brian Clapp. Brian also cut this week's episode. Until next week, stay safe, friends.